Moving into my husband's family home felt like stepping into a ghost town. Everyone acted like I didn't exist. His mother served dinner, but skipped my plate. His sister took my seat at the table and smiled. My husband said nothing. The next day, I packed my bags and left. That night, they found the house nearly empty, because I took everything I had paid for. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I met my now husband David, 35, 3 years ago in Chicago. We were both working in the city, me as a graphic designer, him as an engineer. Things moved fast, but everything felt right. He was polite, kind, and thoughtful. He always asked about my day, and remembered the little things. After 2 years we got married. It was a courthouse wedding. Simple, just the way we both liked it. That's where the simple part ended. After the wedding, David suggested we move into his family's home in Springfield, Illinois. He made it sound like a smart idea. We can save for our own place, he said. My parents have plenty of space. It's just temporary. I wasn't thrilled. I liked having my own space. My quiet, my routines. But I thought, marriage is about compromise. I also figured, his family must be nice. He turned out all right, didn't he? I was wrong. The first red flag came before we even stepped inside. We pulled into the driveway, and his mother, Margaret, didn't come out to greet us. We walked in with our bags, and she just stood in the kitchen stirring something in a pot. She barely glanced up. "You're late," she said to David. No welcome, no smile, no hello for me. His sister Laura came down the stairs with her phone in hand. She didn't say a word, just stared at me, turned around and walked away. Not even a hi. David didn't say anything about it. I told myself maybe they were just awkward. We unpacked into one of the guest rooms. I brought a lot of my own things. My bedding, my favorite chair, a TV I'd gotten on sale, some kitchen appliances, even my own dishes and silverware. I liked having things that were mine. David said his family would be fine with it. That first dinner was a slap in the face. Margaret made roast beef, mashed potatoes, and green beans. She served plates to David, Laura, and her husband Robert. Then she sat down. No plate for me. I looked around, confused. No one else seemed surprised. Did I miss something? I asked. David looked uncomfortable but stayed silent, just kept cutting into his beef. Margaret didn't even acknowledge me. She just started eating. I got up, went to the fridge and made myself a peanut butter sandwich. I ate it quietly while they all chatted like I wasn't even there. Later that night, David said, "I think you're reading too much into it. My mom's just old-fashioned. Old-fashioned like ignoring your son's wife." I asked. "She'll come around," he said. She didn't. Things got worse. Laura would take my seat at the table, smile like it was some sort of game and say nothing. Margaret kept making meat-heavy meals, even after I told her I was vegetarian. One time she made lasagna, and when I asked if there was a vegetarian version, she said you can pick out the meat. I felt like I was living in someone else's house. Someone who really didn't want me there. Robert, David's dad, was barely around, and when he was, he acted like I didn't exist either. He'd talk to David and Laura while watching TV but never once included me in the conversation. I tried bringing up how I felt. I told David again that I felt invisible, like a complete outsider. "You just need to give it time," he said. "They're still adjusting to the idea of me being married." "They're not trying to adjust," I said. "They're just ignoring it." He sighed. "It's temporary. Just hang in there." 3 weeks passed. Every single day I was dismissed, ignored or disrespected in some small but very clear way. I wasn't allowed to cook in the kitchen. It would mess up the schedule. I couldn't do laundry until after. That was Laura's time. And I was never included in family conversations. The final straw came on a Sunday. David and I were in the living room. I had set up my laptop to get some freelance work done. Laura walked in, looked around and said, "Oh, I was going to use this space." She didn't ask. She didn't wait. She just sat down next to David and started blasting TikToks at full volume. I waited for David to say something. He didn't. He just picked up his phone and started scrolling like nothing happened. I went upstairs, shut the door and cried. That night, while David was asleep, I stayed up making a list. Everything in that house that was mine, everything I had paid for was going to come with me. The next morning, I told David I was going to visit a friend back in Chicago for a few days. He barely looked up. Okay, he mumbled. I packed my things, my clothes, my dishes, my appliances, my TV, my favorite chair, my decorations, even the new curtains I had bought for the guest room. Everything that was mine, everything I had brought into that house, I took. I didn't leave a note. I didn't explain. I just left. I drove straight to Chicago that day, 5 hours on the highway, alone, just me and my packed-up car. Every mile felt like shedding another layer of frustration. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. Not just with that house, but with pretending like I was done being treated like I didn't matter. I stayed with my best friend Nora for a few days, while I figured out my own apartment. She didn't hesitate, just opened her guest room, made me tea and didn't ask questions until I was ready to talk. 3 days later, I got a call from David. I almost didn't answer, but I picked up. "Where are you?" His voice was low and tense. "I left," I said plainly. "No," he snapped. "You took everything. I took everything I paid for. That's stealing." "No, David. What your family did to me, that was stealing. Stealing my peace, my energy, I just took back what was mine." He went quiet. Then he said, "You made my mom cry. She never even looked at me, David. Not once. So maybe she shouldn't waste her tears now." He hung up. 2 hours later, Margaret called. I didn't recognize the number at first. She left a voicemail. I still have it. In her passive-aggressive, overly sweet voice, she said, "I'm sorry if you felt out of place." Margaret said in the voicemail, "But taking everything like that, that's not what a real wife does. Maybe you weren't ready for marriage after all." I didn't call her back. I blocked her. A week went by. I moved into my own place. It was small, but it was mine. I bought a used couch, a cheap bed frame. I was starting over from scratch. But at least it was quiet, peaceful, no silent dinners, no mind games, no fake smiles. Then I got a letter in the mail, from a lawyer. David was taking me to small claims court. He said I had damaged his family's home by taking furniture. He claimed I had abandoned the marriage. I stared at the letter for a long time. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Because here's the twist. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not even David. The TV? My name was on the receipt. The sofa? Bought with my credit card from my account. The appliances? Same. The curtains? I had the receipt. I even saved the email confirmations. And the best part, before we got married, I had David sign a prenuptial agreement. He didn't even hesitate. He said it was just a formality. But that prenup clearly stated, each person keeps what they bring into the marriage, unless otherwise agreed in writing. And he never asked for any changes. So I called a lawyer of my own. 3 weeks later, I showed up in court, with a binder neatly labeled, containing proof of purchase for every single item, copies of the prenup, emails, texts. David looked like he hadn't slept in days. Margaret sat behind him, arms crossed, like she was still queen of the world. Laura didn't show. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. I just told the truth. I lived in a house where I was ignored, disrespected, and isolated. Everything I took with me, I bought. I had proof. I didn't steal. I left. David's lawyer tried to argue that I had emotionally manipulated the family by leaving without notice. The judge asked, "Is there any evidence she was abusive, threatening, or financially dependent on them?" David's lawyer answered, "No." The judge looked through the prenup, then said, "This is clear. She took her property. Case dismissed." That should have been the end of it. But of course it wasn't. The next day there was a knock on my apartment door. It was Laura, holding a box. I froze. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She looked different. No smugness, no smirk, just tired. "I wanted to give you this," she said quietly. "It's your wedding album. You left it." I didn't know what to say. She handed it over and added, "For what it's worth, I didn't hate you. I just did what Mom did." "Why?" I asked. She shrugged. "It's just how it is at home. You follow Mom, or you become the target." She looked down at the floor. "I don't think David's doing so good," she said softly. "That's not my problem anymore." I replied. She nodded. I know. Then she turned and left. And I stood there, holding the wedding album, not sure if I wanted to cry, scream or laugh. I set it on a shelf. I haven't opened it yet. The silence in my apartment is thick. Some nights, I won't lie, it gets lonely. But it's still better than being surrounded by people who acted like I didn't exist. And now I have this quiet voice inside me, louder than ever, saying you did the right thing. About 2 weeks after Laura dropped off the album, I started getting weird texts. Not from David, not from Margaret, from unknown numbers. At first, it was small stuff. Hope your little apartment is worth it. Bet your new life isn't so great now. Blocked. Blocked again. Then the packages started. Unmarked Amazon deliveries. One box had a bag of dried dead roses. Another had a t-shirt that read Ungrateful Wife Club. No return address. I went to the leasing office in my building. They pulled the security footage. It was David. He had walked into the lobby wearing a baseball cap, head down, dropped the package on the front desk, and left. No confrontation. Just weird. I filed a police report. Not to press charges yet, but to have it on record. Then I changed the locks. Fast forward a week. I was finally starting to feel normal again. My routine was back. Nora and I were planning a weekend trip. I started sketching again. Work was steady. Then I got an email from David. Subject line. I messed up. I hovered over the trash button, but I clicked. The email was long, rambling, like he'd written it at 3 a.m. and never reread it. He said he knew he failed me, that he watched his mom and sister treat me badly, and still said nothing, that he thought keeping peace in the house meant sacrificing mine. Then he said after I left, his mom kicked him out too. I lost my wife. Then I lost my home. I guess I had to lose everything to fully understand what I had done. I didn't reply. I thought that was the end of it. Until 2 days later, I got another knock on my door. It wasn't David. It was a woman I had never seen before. Hi, she said. I'm Belle. I'm David's ex from before you two met. I just stared, unsure of what to say. She looked nervous, like she had been debating whether to turn around and walk away. I know this is strange, she said, but I really needed to tell you something. I let her in. We sat on my couch and she opened her phone. She started scrolling through pictures, screenshots and messages. She told me they had been dating for almost 2 years, but David's mom never approved of her. Margaret had pressured David to end things, and when he didn't, she made life miserable for both of them. Belle told me that once, Margaret had accidentally let her dog out onto the street while Belle was staying over. The dog got hit by a car. David didn't say anything. He just watched it all happen. He was passive. Belle said he never stood up to his mom. I thought maybe he just needed time to grow up. But then I saw your story. She had found me on Reddit. I saw what you posted, and everything you described was exactly the same. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I figured if I told you maybe you wouldn't think it was just you. It wasn't just you, I said. It was never just me. Then she told me something else. Right before our wedding, Margaret had tried to bribe Belle to reconnect with David. She offered to pay her to show up at his bachelor party and remind him of what he was leaving behind. Margaret wanted to ruin our wedding. Belle said she didn't care who got hurt. I sat there, stunned. So all this time, it wasn't just about disliking me. It was about control. Margaret wanted to be the puppet master. Anyone who didn't dance to her tune was cut out, broken down. After Belle left, I sat in the silence of my apartment for what felt like a long time. Everything finally made sense. David wasn't just spineless. He was groomed to stay quiet, to obey, to choose his mother's comfort over his own spine. I don't know if that makes me feel sorry for him or even more angry. But here's the part that really keeps me up some nights. How many women came before me? How many of them left quietly, thinking it was their fault? And how many didn't leave after Belle? I started thinking hard about everything. The red flags I ignored. How quiet I was when I should have shouted. How I kept hoping things would change even when it was clear they weren't going to. Yeah, David and his family were terrible, but I also stayed too long. I let myself shrink to fit into their tiny world, and that was on me. So I decided to fix that. No, I wasn't going back. I wasn't giving David another chance, but I was going to stop being silent about what happened. I wrote it all out. Every detail. Not just a Reddit post, though that helped too, but a full record, dates, messages, photos. I even had old screenshots where Margaret made backhanded comments in a family group chat. One time she sent me a recipe for meatloaf after I told her twice that I was vegetarian. I had texts where I begged David to speak up, and he replied with "Don't start drama." I put it all in a folder and emailed it to every single family member connected to David. His cousins, his aunts, his uncle in Minnesota, even his grandmother who barely used Facebook, but still checked her email. The subject line: "Since no one asked what happened, here it is," and I hit send. That email started a wildfire. Nora texted me 2 days later, "Girl, they're blowing up Facebook." Turns out Margaret had been bragging to her extended family that I ran off and stole from them, and that David was heartbroken. But now the truth was out. One of his cousins messaged me directly, "I'm so sorry, I knew something felt off. Margaret has always been like that." Another aunt commented publicly, "I knew she was lying about you. I hope David finally sees it." Laura even deleted her social media for a while. But the real drama came a few weeks later. David got fired. Why? Because he worked for a family friend's company, and that friend's wife got a copy of my email from one of the cousins. She read the whole thing, and apparently she had her own issues with Margaret years ago. I heard David was told to take some time off first, then they let him go. Margaret tried calling me twice, leaving a voicemail, crying, "You're ruining our family's name. What do you want from us?" I deleted it, but I wasn't done. Remember how I filed a police report about the package? I followed up, sent them the camera footage, and added the harassment texts. David ended up with a warning. "Any more unwanted deliveries," they said, "and charges will be filed." A month passed, and then one day, I got another knock at the door. It was Laura again, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a younger girl, maybe 18 or 19, holding a small duffel bag and looking scared. "This is Claire," Laura said. "She's my cousin. Aunt Sheila sent her to live with my mom last month. She lasted 6 days." The girl looked down. "They told me I wasn't allowed to use the upstairs bathroom," she said. "They said I didn't fit the energy of the house." Laura continued. "Claire asked me for help. I told her we're not going to let another person get swallowed by that house. I let them." That night, we drank tea in my living room. Claire cried. Laura cried. I didn't. I felt done, empty, but in a clean way, like something had been scraped out of me that needed to go. Then Laura looked at me and said, "You were right to leave. I stayed too long." I replied, "So did I." It's been almost a year now. David moved back in with Margaret after losing his job. I heard through the grapevine that he's still telling people I blindsided him. Whatever helps him sleep, I guess. I moved on, got a new job, a better one, bigger projects, better. I bought a sofa I actually love. The curtains match. The light in this apartment is perfect. In the morning I still have the wedding album. Sometimes I think about burning it, but not out of hate, out of peace. Time passed, and I continued living my new life. I met people who were genuine, supported me, and inspired me to take on new challenges. And though the thoughts of the past sometimes resurfaced, I didn't let myself dwell on them. I was learning to let go and move forward. But there were still moments of weakness, when memories of David, his family, and their manipulations made me feel vulnerable. These moments were rare, but they still came. I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, but I felt an emptiness, as though something wasn't quite right. One day, I ran into an old acquaintance, someone who had once been a close friend of David's. He was shocked to see me in a new light. "You've changed," he said, looking at me with surprise. And I realized that yes, I had changed. Not just outwardly, but inward. I had become stronger, calmer, more confident in the fact that I would never again allow anyone to affect my happiness. I continued building my life, step by step, and every morning when I woke up in my apartment, I felt proud of myself. I had learned to be independent. This was what I had been searching for all along. Even though I was succeeding, there were still moments when I couldn't forget those times when I had lost myself, when the world seemed confusing and tangled. But I knew one thing. I had survived. I had made it through. And now I had everything I needed to move forward. One evening, while sitting on the couch with a cup of tea, reflecting on the past years, I realized that life isn't just about moments of joy, but also about the lessons we learn from difficult situations. I no longer looked back with regret, nor did I search for reasons for what happened. It was simply part of my journey. And then one day, nearly a year later, I got a message from Laura. She told me that Claire,
despite everything that had happened in her life, had found herself and was now studying to become an artist. She was grateful for that night when I took her in. I couldn't help but smile. It was a small but significant step for her, and I was glad I could help. But of course the most important change was how I now viewed life. I was no longer the person who hid from pain, from disappointment. I had learned to look toward the future with confidence, knowing that every choice, every decision I made, was my path. Because here's the real ending that no one talks about. Revenge isn't about destroying them, it's about refusing to let them destroy you, and I won.